you're going to see guys hustling everywhere. You're probably going to hear some swear words coming out of my mouth. I'll try not to on the podcast, but you're going to see intensity. I mean, that's the biggest thing is passion and intensity are twin brothers. And, I think you're going to see guys that are doing what they're supposed to do as hard as they can. If they're not, somebody's going to be saying something to them. And it's not necessarily going to be me. It's probably going to be our shortstop or, our starting pitcher who's going to be, right on them right away. You're going to see competitive fire at all times. And you're going to see a lot of smiles.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clearing the Bases, the podcast where we step up to the plate and dive deep into the world of youth baseball. I'm your host, Jimmy Filangieri. On this show, we discuss all things related to the preparation and development of youth baseball players, coaches, and yes, even parents. So sit back, settle in, and get ready to hear from some of the greatest baseball minds out there.
We can teach how to hit a cutoff man. We've had Division I transfers that we had to teach them how to throw four seams across the infield, right? So we can teach the game. It's not going to take super long to figure out where you're deficient and how to fix it in that respect. But I'd like to see at the youth level kids learn how to throw and catch. Okay, kids learn how to hustle always. Kids learn how powerful the bases are, running the bases and how that can impact a game. But that's, it's just a simple level, right? Just play super hard, play as much as you can, learn how to run the bases, learn how to catch and throw.
To be able to reach the highest levels of this game, you got to work hard. You got to get in the cages. You got to do your strength and conditioning. You got to throw your bullpens. There's all of this physical stuff that you need to do, and you need to work hard at it. But don't forget that you also have to get better at the mental side of the game. And one of the ways you can do that is increase baseball IQ by downloading and using the Six Tool app.
For baseball coaches like you, every game brings measurable progress. However, game time isn't the time for trial and error learning. Instead, have a proactive approach. Use Six Tool, the best baseball player development tool on the market. We provide a platform to level up your coaching strategy by helping you to quickly identify and address your players' knowledge of the game. By using our easy-to-implement interactive player quizzes, you can assess position-specific issues, overall baseball IQ, and much more. Win more games and develop better overall baseball players with effective off-the-field training. Visit us at six-tool.com. Six Tool. Get ahead in the game.
So, today's guest is another one of the most respected coaches in NCAA Division III baseball, and someone who has built a program defined by consistency, player development, academic excellence, and championship success. Joining us is Matt Englander, the head baseball coach at Case Western Reserve University. Coach Englander enters his 20th season, leading the Spartans as the winningest coach in program history. With nearly 450 career victories, 6 University Athletic Association championships, multiple NCAA tournament appearances, and the program's first ever NCAA Super Regional appearance in 2025. Under his leadership, Case Western Reserve has become one of the premier academic baseball programs in the country, producing All-Americans, academic All-Americans, and student athletes who excel both on the field and in the classroom. But Coach Englander's story goes far beyond wins and championships. Throughout his career, he's become known as an outstanding mentor, earning Case Western Reserve's prestigious J. Bruce Jackson Award for excellence in undergraduate mentoring. He has also faced significant personal adversity, overcoming brain cancer while continuing to lead, teach, and inspire those around him. A journey that has shaped both his coaching philosophy and his perspective on leadership. Tonight, we'll talk about building a championship culture at one of the nation's top academic institutions, recruiting student athletes who embrace both the classroom and the diamond, developing leaders through adversity, and why relationships remain at the heart of successful coaching. Hi, Coach. I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight. I mean, this is going to be a great conversation. And how's everything going?
Good, busy. Summer's fleeting, to say the least. We're just finished up with our summer little league season for my little guys, and we're going into fall ball and getting ready to start with our college guys, which is really exciting. Yeah,
that's really good. So you're working with the little guys. Talk about that a little bit. How's that going?
It's a blast. I have two sons. One is 14. He's going into 8th grade, and one is 10. He's going to be 11 in a few weeks. He's going into 5th grade. The youngest is still playing baseball. He loves it. He's way into it. So we finished up our little league season, and then our community has a fall ball season. And so I volunteer, help out coach as much as I can around our schedule. It's a riot. I mean, the kids play hard. They love it. It's joyful. We have all different skill levels, kids that are really serious about it, kids that are playing for the first time. And it's just, it's what baseball's supposed to be. It's fun for everybody.
Well, I got to give you a lot of credit. I mean, for a college coach to be working with younger kids, you don't see that too often, I'll say. And that's fantastic that they have you. So
I don't know, man. It's not beneath me to do any of this. I'm nothing special. I'm just a guy. I'm fortunate to have a great job. So, but I learn just as much from those guys as they learn from me. I learn something every year when I help out with the little league stuff. It's really fun. I learn about the game and about how people work and all that stuff. So, I get a lot out of it as well.
Great. So take us through a little bit of your history. I mean, you're at Case Western now, and how'd you get there? Talk a little bit about your playing career. Give everybody a little background.
Yeah, so I'm from a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. I've lived in Northeast Ohio my whole life. I went to the College of Worcester, which is about an hour south of here. Great baseball program. Played there for 4 years. Was an All-American my junior and senior year as a pitcher. I was a right-handed pitcher. And then once I graduated, I played in the Frontier League for a month and got released. So I didn't have the greatest professional career that's ever been logged, but it was an eye-opening experience and a good experience for sure. Got done with that, took kind of regular jobs, moved back to Worcester, Ohio, and was volunteer coaching at my alma mater. And the assistant coach at the time left to be a high school athletic director. So I took the job, or was offered the job, and took it in November, basically, of the very next season after I graduated. So I didn't miss any time with the Scots. So I was there coaching as an assistant for 4 years, and it was a rocky start. I didn't handle coaching my friends well. I had a lot of really close friends on the team, and didn't do a great job with that. Didn't know what I was doing as a coach. I didn't feel like I was helping anybody. The only thing I felt comfortable with was recruiting, and I was not going to come back. I was planning on leaving after the season. Just felt like I was drowning at all times. And thankfully, I was talked into staying a little bit and had, got a little more comfortable as time went on. And after that first year and coming back the second year, really started to fall in love with it and really enjoyed the coaching aspect from there. So I got into coaching in the summertime with a Legion team. I had first a 16 and under and then a 19 and under team for a couple of years after the 16-year-old team, and loved it. I mean, that's when the first time I was a head coach was with those Legion teams, and just really fell in love with it, the competitiveness and helping kids be their best, and being a part of a team. It was really rewarding, a lot of fun. It seemed like it was right up my alley. So spent 4 years at Worcester and was fortunate enough to get the job at Case Western Reserve. I was, I think, 25 years old when I was hired, and I've loved it. I've been there this is just starting my 21st year, and I've loved every day of it.
Well, what I find pretty interesting is like what you said, that when you first started coaching that, you felt like you didn't know what you were doing, and it was tough because, I mean, I think we're all in the same boat. I mean, I can remember back to when I first started coaching, what a mess that was, and how it's come to where it is now. But let's face it, I'm sure that you're the same way. The only way that happens is if you continually get better, try to get better as a coach.
Well, you have to care about it, and you have to be humble enough to know that you're not any good. Which, I was a good player, and it didn't translate to coaching kids, right? And that was really frustrating because now all of a sudden, every trick that I might have in a bag, it's not working, and I don't have it. I'm out. I don't know what else to do. So, our head coach, I think for a couple of reasons. One, the second of which is probably to help me, but the first of which, he didn't want us to stink. And I was coaching pitchers and not doing a good job. So he brought in a guy who had been a head coach in college and a pitching coach, very successful. And he brought him to essentially coach our pitchers. I was learning from him. I worked with our catchers quite a bit. And that really took a lot of pressure off of me and allowed me to learn and see how the job was actually done. And it made a huge impact on me as a person and in my career as well. So I'm indebted for that happening. And, that allowed me to really not feel like I was always just failing, but to actually step back and learn and have some ideas and be told why my ideas were stupid before I just implemented stupid ideas, that type of stuff. So, that really was helpful.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also true that, just because you're a high level player does not mean that you're going to be a good coach. Now, a lot of high level players like yourself turn it around and become good coaches, but it's not a given. Okay, because there's a big, like you had alluded to, there's a big difference between playing and then trying to get somebody to understand how to do what you're trying to teach them.
Well, and I think it's even more complicated than that, right? I mean, I can get somebody else to do what worked for me, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for them. I mean, my job is not to turn a bunch of players into versions of myself.
Right.
My job is to turn a bunch of players into the best versions of themselves. And I really have very little to do with that equation or what my career was or my ability was. And so, it's really more of a lens that you look through when you're used to just looking through the lens of what you did and what worked for you. That's all you know.
Yeah.
And so the chance to see somebody work with other people and to ask questions and figure out what makes other people tick is really how you're trying to get at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% is that, the way you coach one kid, you can't, is not the way you coach another. You can't create robots. Everything's not cookie cutter. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. And, making a transition, in your case, being so young, going from a player to, a head coach, that had to be difficult, had to be really difficult.
I think it would have been if I had never been a head coach. I coached probably 200 games for the Legion team over 3 years. And obviously it's not the same level, but I still understood when to make up a lineup card and when to put on a steel sign and what my style was and what my voice was in the huddles and in the dugout and how to run a practice, all that stuff. So when I got to Case, it was different. I'm now in charge of a college team. But for one, we weren't any good. We had 16 players my first year. And I mean, we had one kid that threw 80 miles an hour and he threw 80, not 81, not 80 and a half, he threw 80. So, there wasn't much to mess up when I got here, but it was also not lost on me that just because we weren't very good, it doesn't mean that you have to accept losing. And it doesn't mean it was any less important to those kids that were on the team. Yeah. And so, we took it very seriously from day one. And I think we had 27 guys in the fall, and 11 of them decided it wasn't for them. We ended up with 16 because it was going to be different than what they had expected. And those 16 guys were great. It was a great first year, great experience with those kids. I think I provided something that they hadn't had before, and they certainly provided something to me, which I'm grateful for. And that was, they worked like they were in major leagues. I mean, they worked their tails off. They were hungry. They took it seriously and didn't let a lack of talent get in the way of how we were going to compete. And, it was a really great first year for a lot of reasons. They were, it was the end of a lot of careers, and it was just the beginning of mine. And to be able to share that together was really special.
That's really interesting because the show that I just did before you was Mike Deegan, and he said the exact same thing that you said, that when he took over the program at Denison, that, a lot of kids jumped ship because it was, it was a culture change. It was a culture shift. And, some of the kids, and that's fine. The kids didn't, but I thought that's interesting that you kind of ran into the same things.
Well, it's, I think I respect Mike a lot. He's a good friend. And I think we're probably similar. I try to give the truth whenever it's available, right? As soon as I know that it's not going to work, or this is how hard we're going to go, or whatever it's going to be, there's no reason to sugarcoat it or to hide or anything like that, because you're just going to make it painful. And so, there's no reason to get there with guys that, just met me and I'm a first year head coach, and here's how it's going to be. If you don't like it, that's okay, but this isn't going to be for you. We're not trying to have guys that are, going to fake their way through. It's going to be really difficult to play for us. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, and you're going to have the time of your life, but it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And we want to figure that out on the front end, as opposed to once you've been here for a couple of years and you're miserable and you're not working hard and I'm always after you. And that's not an experience anybody's interested in having.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So when you first took over the program, what were the first things that you focused on? Because like you had said, again, I feel like I'm talking to Mike again, because this is the very same thing, that the team wasn't very good and you took it over. And what's the first things that you focused on?
Yeah, we were in a little different spot than Mike was. I mean, so when I got there, the school record for wins was 19, like ever. The coach that was here before me said he hadn't made a recruiting call in 6 years.
Wow.
The players would organize their own practices. I guess the coach didn't come a lot of the time. So it was really unique. What I focused on was recruiting. I mean, for big time, we brought in, I think, 22 kids the first couple of years each year. Yeah. We brought in really big numbers. But also, trying to toe the line of, we know we're not very good. We know that it's going to take a couple of years to get to where we want to be, but also not accepting that we're going to be bad. It was a really, really strange, and I give our guys that were there and that went through it with us a lot of credit, because, my first recruiting class, the guys that showed up in the spring of 2008, they were a part. Their senior year, we made the NCAA tournament for the first time. One of my first recruits was the National Player of the Year for D3Baseball.com that year, and they were through it. I mean, their freshman, sophomore years, we won like 12 games a year, and then junior year they broke through 24. Next year 33, and those guys really understood we are young, we're not good enough yet, but if we work at it and if we take this seriously and we don't accept losing as something that's okay. We know it's going to happen, but it's not okay. Then they were able to really keep building. And that to me was really the key, was that we understood we were going to lose, and we never understood that was going to be okay. It was never not painful.
That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough road, when you take over a program like that and you have to build it. The last high school I was at was very similar. And I said to the AD when he hired me, I said, give me 3 to 5 years. This is going to take some time. You have to have a culture shift. We have to, make the players understand the way we do things. And it's going to take time. But, so you did it in 4 years? You turned it around 3 years.
We were pretty bad for 3, and then we were better. But I did it, but we had tremendous guys. And, I was fortunate. We had a couple of guys that coached with me that, they were making like, $3,000. That's what we had to, as an assistant coach, and tremendous guys that way. We had really great kids who were pretty decent baseball players, but dedicated in the weight room and just, wanted to win so bad and wanted to win at a place that hadn't really won at a high level before. And, I think that was really the special part, was getting these people that believed in something that hadn't been before, and wanting to be part of that. And it was a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, you can't do it by yourself. We all understand that, but you're the leader. You set the tone, and by having those players, like you just described, then good things are going to happen if the leader is good, because again, if you have a bad coach, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. If you have a bad coach, but you have the players that want to win and this and that, and he's not setting the tone, I don't know if the outcome is going to be the same.
No, 100%. I mean, it takes everybody, right? You have to have good leadership at the top. You have to have support You have to have leadership in the team, which we were fortunate enough to have with some of our guys. Absolutely.
Yeah. And your assistant coaches, I mean, I know the way I am. I want my assistant coaches to be better than me. I don't need to be the smartest guy in the room. I want guys around me that could build a program.
Absolutely. No, and that's where I've been really fortunate. I've had some great people that have assisted me and been part of this, and really work as a team. I mean, we have 2 full-time assistants now, and we say all the time, like, it doesn't matter where credit comes from. We want to be successful. We want to help these kids be the best versions of themselves as they can be, and it's the truth. Yeah. And I think that filters down to the players too, where it's competitive. You only get to play one shortstop at a time. And the guys that are playing the same position, I think that's one of the indicators of a healthy organization, is that our guys, our catchers are really close with each other, right? They don't hate each other because they're taking jobs. They are really close with each other. Our shortstops are really close with each other, and they're pulling for each other and helping each other get better and pushing each other to get better every day. And, that's, I think, what represents us the best right there.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, let's face it, I've always told my teams that you have to be like a brotherhood. You have to be brothers. You have to be pulling for each other. And, I mean, I love that. But so let's talk a little bit about, because I used the word culture. How has it changed in the 21 years that you've been at Case Western?
How has our culture changed?
Yes, yours. If it has at all. In other words, you got there at 25. Has it evolved, or is it the same as it was back then?
I think it's always evolving. I mean, it's a living thing. My old assistant Nick Callahan said it. He goes, building a culture is really difficult, and once you do, you have to protect it violently if necessary, right? I mean, that's the hard part, because building it is one thing. It's selling a dream, right? But once you've got something established, now you have to defend it, and you have to make hard decisions. And there's people that you like that don't necessarily fit or aren't doing things the right way, and you've got to tell them. And you have to look in the mirror, because there's been times where I've been a problem for sure, and I've had to really change, how I communicate and how I coach people. So I think how it's changed, there's some baselines, there's some bedrock, right? Winning and improving has to be important to everybody. And I think that's, you have to rely on that. And once the game becomes about something other than your best, you run into big problems real fast. Once you start to sugarcoat things, or you start to play favorites, you run into problems real fast. I think the truth has to speak, and it has to play. And accountability is just, the public face of that. And so I think where we'll run into problems is and COVID was really difficult in this sense, where, it provided like a leadership vacuum in some ways, right? You have a whole senior class that gets, in our case, I think 10 games, and then they're gone. And the guys that were relying on them to learn miss a whole season, and it becomes really, really tricky. And so it was like a reset button from a culture and leadership standpoint. Where we've been our best is when our players start to really rise and take that accountability mantle and carry it themselves, and they hold each other accountable much more than I do. And when that starts to happen, and it's happened a majority of our years here, that's when your program has a chance to be special.
Yeah, I love that. That's fantastic. So let's say I took my little baseball school that I started with the 7th and 8th graders. So I said to them, come on, guys, we're going to go over to Case Western. We're going to watch one of Coach Englander's practices. What are they going to say?
You're going to see guys hustling everywhere. You're probably going to hear some swear words coming out of my mouth. I'll try not to on the podcast, but you're going to see intensity. I mean, that's the biggest thing is passion and intensity are twin brothers. And, I think you're going to see guys that are doing what they're supposed to do as hard as they can. If they're not, somebody's going to be saying something to them, and it's not necessarily going to be me. It's probably going to be our shortstop, or, our starting pitcher, who's going to be, right on them right away. You're going to see competitive fire at all times, and you're going to see a lot of smiles.
I love that. Again, it goes back to what you were saying before about how it doesn't come from you. And as far as the swear words go, there's nobody worse than me. My language is terrible.
It's not worse. It's not necessarily bad. These are all adults that I'm coaching. It's okay. They've heard it before and they'll hear it after me.
Yeah. But yeah, if the players are holding each other accountable, I love that, because again, that's the basis of everything, and that's what we're all trying to create, where it's their program. We're there to guide them, teach them, lead them, but it's their program. And once they understand that, then I guess stuff like what you just explained happens.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think one of the things about leadership is it can be uncomfortable, but people don't understand that they're leading in some way almost all the time, right? It may not be in the right direction. It may not be powerfully, but somebody's looking at you. Somebody wants to see how you do things, and they're deciding if they're going to follow you or not. And so when people start to get comfortable with who they are, and that, hey, I can be an example, and I can hold others accountable because I hold myself accountable, then leadership starts to come.
Yeah. So you talked about recruiting a little bit, so let's go into that a little. So what do you find like challenges are with recruiting with an elite academic institution where, the how do I put it? In other words, you can't recruit guys that have a 1.5 GPA. So you have to go after guys that have certain GPAs. What kind of...
I can't recruit guys that have a 3.5 GPA.
Well, that's, yeah.
I think every school has its own set of issues when it comes to recruiting, and we have a gap where we can find enough good players from an academic standpoint. And I love coaching the high academic kids. It's really a lot of fun. The high level conversations, because they're so bright, they're so inquisitive, they're so responsible. It's really rewarding to be around these guys. And is it difficult to find them? I don't know if it's any more difficult than anywhere else, quite honestly. But we've kind of found a path, and we've found enough guys to fill out our roster.
Yeah, I mean, do you find that like kids that do have those higher GPAs are players that understand that they have to work hard to succeed? I mean, doesn't that kind of go hand in hand?
I think so. There's not a ton of guys who are getting the grades that you need to get into a school like ours, and they're lazy at the same time, right? So I think that's one of the reasons that I like being here, is because to achieve what you need to get into school, you've got to have that kind of drive in you, right? It's got to be in you on some level. And so to then translate that to the baseball field and to practice, that's really a choice, to use that hard work, that skill, that drive that they have innately in them academically, to use that on something else that they're passionate about. So yeah, I absolutely think they go hand in hand.
Yeah. So if, you run across a high school player, they have the grades, they have the ability, but they overlook Division III because the misconceptions that, I've got to be a D1 player, a D2. What advice would you give a kid like that?
Well, I think reality is going to set in pretty quick. I mean, if they're good enough to be a Division I player, then they're going to go and do that. And they're going to get recruited and get an opportunity. And if they're not, then their phone's not going to ring very much. And so I think just, understanding that, it's 100% like, guys should be going after schools or talking to coaches at schools that they're interested in. And schools, most coaches that I know aren't going to lead people on. They're not trying to do anything like that. They're going to shoot you straight. Yeah, you're a guy for us. No, you're not a guy for us. You have to listen. And I think it's really important for guys who are in that kid's shoes to go somewhere where you're wanted. It's really tough to go somewhere where they're telling you they don't really want you to be there, and you choose to go there anyway. They have multiple players ahead of you that are your age or a year older. They're going to bring in players at your position next year. It's really difficult because you're not going to get the same opportunities as the other guys are going to get when you're not wanted to be there. Yeah. So going to a place where you are wanted, it matters. It makes things a lot easier in terms of just getting opportunities. And so I would say if kids should have the desire to go to Division I and play, and should want to get drafted, and all these things, those are healthy, and they should have those aspirations. But they also need to live in reality. And if those things aren't coming to fruition, They need to really examine, do I want to play college baseball? Does it matter to me what level I play at? Answer those questions honestly, and then make choices from there.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things too that I say, the level doesn't matter. You want to be the best you can be at the highest level that you can achieve. You know, if it's D1, great. If it's D3, it's great. If it's JUCO, whatever it is. Okay, but that's what you want to be. And the most important part is go someplace where you're going to play. You know, why are you going to go somewhere and, like you said, you have other players at that position, this, that, and the other thing, and you're going to be sitting on the bench for a couple of years. Isn't the point of go to a school that you're going to be comfortable at and that you're going to play?
Yeah, some kids' dream is to just be on a Division I roster, and it's their life, it's their dream. I'm not going to tell them what their dream should be. I'm going to lay out the benefits of being at a place like ours versus being at a place like that. But ultimately, it's their life, it's their decision. And so my job is to just make sure that they know that they're making that decision with their eyes open, right? On both ends, what it's going to mean to come here and play for me, what it's going to mean to go there and be part of that situation. As long as their eyes are open, as long as they understand what those are going to look like, it's their choice. I can't force somebody to do something. I can't say it's a good decision, bad decision, or anything like that. It just needs to be laid out, and they need to make the best choice for their life.
Well, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about before about being brutally honest. So, I'm on the other end of that because most of my career has been high school coaching. So I'm trying to guide players to get to whatever level that they can get to. And let's face it, the majority of the kids, the level that they can play at is D3. Now, we know that there's different levels of D3 baseball, but again, my advice to the kids have always been go where you're going to play. Just go where you're going to play because, and again, you and I both know this, that these kids are not going to be playing for the Yankees. They're not. They're going to go to school. They're going to get an education. So you might as well go and have fun, be the best that you can be, and then once school is over, go get a job.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And I think the biggest thing is the kids do want to play baseball. I mean, why do you play? I mean, it's a simple question with a complicated answer for a lot of people. Why do you play? And just if they can answer that question honestly, a lot of things start to get easier, right? Do they play because it's fun or because they get to be around their friends or because their dad wants them to? Or what's the answer? What's the real answer in their heart? And they don't have to answer it to anybody but themselves. Yeah. And they can make choices based on that. And, we have kids that play baseball because they love it, because they love competing and winning, and they want to do something for 4 more years that they love doing, right? And I think that's a common thread with not just Division III athletes, but Division I athletes as well. I mean, just because they're getting paid or because they're playing in a bigger stadium, I don't think they love it less. And I don't think just because our guys aren't getting paid or aren't playing in a giant stadium doesn't mean our guys love it any less either, right? No matter who you are, every minute lasts just as long as the other person's, and that's a minute of your life. And so we talk to our guys, whatever you're doing with your time, that's the big time because it's your life. You only get one of them. And so when kids are starting to think about and answer those questions, what do I want to do with my time? How much do I love this? Do I love it enough to go and play in a program like this? Do I love it enough to play in a program like this? Am I ready to give it up? As long as kids are honest with themselves about why they're doing it and what they're willing to put into it, they can have a great experience at their own place.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics is player development. So again, we were just talking about you going to your son's practice and working with young kids. So you as a college coach, what would you like to see happen prior to them getting to the college level? And I'm talking about, youth baseball, let's say everywhere from 12 all the way up to a senior in high school. What would you like to see people do that you feel would develop the players for what you need? How's that?
Play hard. That's the one thing that if it's not in you, by the time you get to me, it's not going to be right. If you can't play the game super hard, I can't. It's hard for me to get through to you on that level. We can teach how to hit a cutoff man. We've had Division I transfers that we had to teach them how to throw 4 seams across the infield, right? So we can teach the game. It's not going to take super long to figure out where you're deficient and how to fix it in that respect. But I'd like to see at the youth level kids learn how to throw and catch. Okay, kids learn how to hustle always. Kids learn how powerful the bases are, running the bases and how that can impact a game. But that's, it's just a simple level, right? Like just play super hard, play as much as you can, learn how to run the bases, learn how to catch and throw.
Yeah. Yeah.
The things they take forever to teach once you get here.
Yeah. The catch and throw. I mean, I think that, again, being in that world of, youth baseball and high school baseball mostly, I don't think people understand or they teach enough throwing and catching. And I lead once I get a team, that as soon as I meet with the team for the first time, that's the first thing I tell them is if you can't throw and you can't catch, you can't play this game. So we better learn how to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, with my youngster, all I really want him to do, I just say whenever you throw the baseball, you throw it hard, right? Every throw at a little league level is typically a changeup thrown at your feet, right? It's a kid not throwing it hard and they throw it at your feet. And it's just such a drag and it makes the game so bad. And all I want him to do is just hustle and throw the ball hard at people's chest. Like, that's it. Yeah. If you can do that at the little league level, you're going to win a lot of games, right? You're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, I love that. As far as player development is concerned, and again, I don't want to say old school because I hate that, but I'm older. Okay, so my thought process is different than younger guys. What role has technology played in the way you coach? Has it changed since you got there?
Yeah, it's changed. I mean, we've gone from a program that didn't own a radar gun to now having 2 or 3 Rapsodo devices and a TrackMan in our stadium, right? So it's certainly changed. How it's changed in terms of player development, it can help. I think the way that we try to use technology is it's a backbone for what advice is being given, right? Or it's a backbone for what your identity is. Okay. So it can tell you spin and velocity and break and all these exit velocities and all these things that used to be opinion, right? It used to be a coach saying, oh, that looks great. That broke a little bit more. Or the catcher saying, hey, that was nasty. Or that one was flat. Well, you may or may not believe that. But if you can see in real time that was better or that was worse or that one, it's really just reinforcing or opening some eyes as to what you're able to do. And then, if there's something you want to change about it, it can maybe provide, hey, you're a low spin guy, right? So giant curveball is probably not for you type of thing. We may want to think more about this. So it can help with identity. It can help with, some bolstering of expertise and that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I see it that way because I feel that the technology is good as a, like a tape measure. It's a measuring tool. If a kid, we're working on a kid with, I don't know, trying to hit them instead of hitting, ball up in the air all the time, we're working on getting him hitting, line drives back at the cage. We can track, how he's doing that by using technology. We could track, like you said, exit velocity. So if we're working with him and all of a sudden, we start seeing his exit velocity increase, then so do you understand what I'm trying to say? It's really a measuring tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I think it's also fun. I mean, guys get enjoyment out of hitting the ball hard. That's kind of the point, right? This is a sport where you get to do something violent and not get in trouble for it. And, you get to see how hard you can hit a ball, see how hard you can throw it. It's enjoyable. It makes it fun. It makes it interesting. I coach a bunch of engineers on a daily basis, and the technology really makes sense to them in a lot of ways and their brains. So, it's helpful for us in that way too.
And you just mentioned something too that I'm going to ask you, about hitting the ball hard. So yes, we want them to hit the ball hard, but how do you work with your players to stop them from coming out of their shoes when they're swinging at the ball? Or don't you have that problem?
Well, I think everybody has that problem. I think, it's natural as a human being, right? But that's where the technology can really help. Yeah. Hey, take 10 swings my way, take 10 swings and swing out of your shoes, and let's see whose is better. Maybe if yours is better, we'll do it. I tell guys all the time, I don't care if you go up there and have your back to the pitcher. If you can hit the ball hard, good for you. I'm not going to try to change you if what you're doing is working. So, if you want to swing from your shoes and that produces what we're looking for and that's your best, then great, let's do it. Probably isn't. and now we have some data, we have some evidence, we have some statistics that back that up.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's what I mean. The reason why I brought it up, that's a pet peeve of mine, is younger kids now, they're so caught up in exit velocity that they will swing and their head comes out and their hips open early and everything is just, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Well, and I think understanding probability. I mean, do you want to, what kind of hitter do you want to be? Do you want to be the guy that hits 200 and hits, 7 home runs? Or do you want to be the guy that hits 350 and hits 5 home runs, right? You may hit 9 just because, you're a better hitter now and you don't hit a lot of home runs with high bat speed where you miss the ball. That's an exit velocity of 0 and that doesn't play. So, but again, kids they don't understand. We're looking at players in terms of what can you do consistently, right? Players are typically looking at themselves as, what can I do when I'm at my very best, right? And so they remember the ball that they hit 400 feet against the high school team, and then they think that they can do that every time. And technically they're right. They could theoretically do that every time they step the home plate. We see a kid who's hit a ball 400 feet exactly once in their life, right? And we're more interested in, what can you do for me daily, consistently, that's going to help us win? And so bridging that gap between how coaches look at the game and want it played and how players look at the game and want it played is a really big part of the job.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, now my another big subject that I love to talk about, and it's adversity. And in your case, there is, I would say, no better example of dealing with adversity than what you had to do with when you had your brain tumor. So how did that change your perspective? Has that experience influenced the way you coach?
Well, I think honestly, every experience influences the way that I coach. But it certainly had a big impact on who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I would have to say yes in a big way. I think adversity is really an opportunity for a lot of people. And in my case, it's been an opportunity to see who I really am. I don't think I was one person before I got sick and I'm a different person after I got sick. I've been the same person. And I think the time before I was diagnosed was a training ground in a lot of ways. And it made me who I was and who I am, so that when I did get sick, I was able to answer it in a certain way. And it was in my way. And it coincided with my identity. And I've had a lot of cancer friends who, I would talk to them and I'd be running a marathon the next weekend, and I would talk to a friend who couldn't get out of bed because of severe depression. And when she got out of bed, went to the grocery store, it was a bigger deal than what I was doing running a race, right? It was harder for her to do that than it was for me to do this. And so I learned really, really early that comparing suffering is silly and it's pointless. Everybody's going through something. Most people don't know what the other person is going through. Most people can't relate. And so having some understanding that, you don't know what someone else is what's happening, and we can support others and they can support us is a really big deal. It's a really powerful lesson to learn. I think a lot of people, and I hope that the experience playing baseball trains our guys to deal with some of that, because baseball's brutal. I mean, you're going to fail. It's baked into the system, and it's a very, very difficult game to play emotionally and mentally. And it's one of the reasons I love it. I love playing golf for the same reason, because it's really, really hard. And so I think if you're used to challenging yourself and responding and failing and understanding why and being curious as to why failure happened, and also being curious as to why success happened, then adversity becomes something that you can deal with. And it's not necessarily fun, but it's something that you can handle and you believe in it.
And you mentioned the magic word failure. Is there anything that you do with your players to lessen the impact of failure on them, or do you just let it play itself out?
I think, everybody deals with it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it's important to learn how you deal with it, and if the way that you deal with it needs to change, or if it's healthy. I think failing is an important part of success, but I also think, I don't think failing a bunch guarantees success. I think you can learn how to fail. And that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to succeed. So I think dealing with failure on an emotional level is one thing. Dealing with it on an intelligence or a perspective level is another thing. We hope that our guys aren't worried about the emotional impact that failure has, and more see failure as something to deal with, right? Like when something happens, use it. That's what we try to tell our guys, right?
Yeah.
When something bad happens, it's only bad if you let it be lasting. But baseball is an interesting thing because there's no clock, really. There's a pitch clock, but there's no clock out there.
Yeah.
You have to, it's a meritocracy. You have to get everybody out, or else the game doesn't end. You don't win. So you really you only lose in the one moment when the game is actually over, right? And then that's the only time you can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So I think when you can separate the emotional side of failure, right, and not let it bog you down, because there's a future in the rest of the game. You may give up a grand slam, there's still more game to play. And so if you can separate the emotional side of failure out from just it's a part of the game and we've got to deal with the new circumstance, it becomes a lot easier, and you start to realize that there are very few final failures in life.
Yeah. We actually I teach a protocol. So if you're on defense and, you boot a ball, you make an error, whatever, you have a protocol that you have to go through to try and put that, behind you and move forward and just change, your focus from what just happened to what is going to happen next. So, yeah, I mean, it's a tough thing, especially, like I said, with younger kids, high school players, youth players, to make them understand that what you just said, that failure is part of the game. It's going to happen. It's going to happen time and time again. So you better learn how to deal with it. Otherwise, you're just going to be very unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it is. It's part of life. It's part of the game. I think without it, it would be boring, right? I mean, if every day you woke up and it was just easy and everything went your way, you don't really have anything to be proud of. And so, when something bad happens or where you make a mistake or whatever it is, it gives you a chance to overcome, which is, really defining.
Yeah. But I also think, in us as coaches, I think it's very important to, put on display how we handle failure, because we fail during the game. There's things that we do that are wrong. And how we're able to just look past it. I use as an example, if I'm coaching third base and I send a runner and it gets thrown out at the plate, okay? So I made a mistake, da-da-da-da-da. But if they can see that I didn't pout, I say, okay, went on to the next play, I think by how we act, will actually help them also.
Yeah, 100%. And we're people too, right? Yeah. And so understanding that we're going to make mistakes. The biggest thing when I make a mistake is I try to own it, immediately. I try to take responsibility for it. I mean, I tell my players, I tell my 10-year-old kid, we take responsibility and we give credit, right? If you start to push responsibility to someone else, okay, A, everyone knows whose fault it was, okay? And B, if you push responsibility elsewhere, now you can't do anything about it, right? If it wasn't your fault, then it's somebody else's mess to clean up, and you're out of a job, pal, right? But I know why I screwed up. That was my fault. It's not going to happen again. Here's why. You take responsibility for it. You fix it. Well, that's being a man, and that plays. That's improvement.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. But so every coach has certain things that are non-negotiables. What would you say yours are?
In terms of our players, what we ask for our players.
Yeah, in terms of, I mean, I look at it my culture. Okay, the way we do things. Okay, there are certain things that we that aren't negotiable. I can be flexible with a lot of stuff that we do, depending on the team. But there are certain things that no, it has to be.
Yeah, you have to play super hard. You have to practice super hard. You have to be paying attention, be aware of what's going on at all times. We have 2 team rules, okay? And this is legitimately these are our 2 team rules. One of them is we say no dying, okay? And what that means is don't be aware of your surroundings. Don't do something that's going to put you or somebody else in jeopardy of getting hurt, getting injured. just be smart, be aware of what's going on at all times. Okay. If you're aware of your surroundings, you're paying attention to what's going on from a safety standpoint, you probably know what's going on around you from a baseball situation standpoint, right? We want our guys in the mode of like paying attention. Second rule we have is no racism. Okay. And what that means is no matter who it is, opponent, enemy, best friend, parent, they deserve and are treated with respect, right? And that's going to, if you live that way, where you're paying attention to your surroundings at a high level, if you respect everybody and treat them that way, you're a great teammate, right? And you're probably going to be somebody that can last in our program, that's going to work, that's going to do things the right way, because you're curious and you're responsible for who you are. And so, like, those are the things that we're looking for, are people who pay attention to what's going on around them, who really care deeply about being their best version of themselves, who care about other people and respect other people and don't like look down on others, things like that. And so those are kind of the, if we have non-negotiables, those would be the things.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, respect is a big thing that, we need to teach, and I'm sure, and I'm going to ask you this, about how, how you view umpires and how your team views umpires and how you expect them to view umpires. Because I think that that's something that, and again, when I was talking to Coach Deegan, I said the same thing, that it just breaks my heart what's happening with officials in the game.
Yeah, I think one of the things we talk to our guys about is the Major League Baseball has the best umpires in the world. This is, we know this. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the major leagues. And they're so good and the job is so easy for those guys that they spend tens, hundreds, I don't know how many millions of dollars every year to have a private viewing booth in New York City with multiple people at the ready at all times to correct bad calls. Okay. Like, it's an impossible job. And especially at the high school and college level, we don't have replay at our level. We have guys that are doing it because they love it. They make a little bit of money. Listen, they make bad calls and we try to hold them accountable for that. And that's the thing with umpires. If you're working your tail off, right, and you're being respectful, you can work for me. Okay. That I have no problem with. It's when guys are lazy. It's when guys don't care. It's when guys are disrespectful. That's when I have a big problem with them. And that's pretty rare. Most of the guys we get are great and they really get after it and they really care about the job and the kids and the people that they're working with. But to judge umpires just based on how good they are, how bad they are, this and that, I'll have conversations with them. I'll say, hey, here's this. And with the TrackMan, it's helpful. We get a strike zone report and they want to see it. We'll talk to them about it. But I don't hold it against them because it's a very, very difficult job to do. And so we really just ask them to work as hard as they can at it, for it to be important to them, and to act with respect to the players and to the game. And if they do those things, we're happy.
Yeah. Yeah. But what I kind of meant was like how you treat them. So in other words, like my feeling is that we need to treat them with respect. We need to, almost look, well, it's true. And look at it not like they're an adversary. They're not. They're there to do a job. They have a job to do. We have a job to do. But there's no reason for everybody on the face of the earth to jump on an umpire, especially at the youth levels. Maybe at your level, Major League Baseball, okay, it's a little bit more important, okay? But man, oh man, leave the damn umpires alone. We're losing umpires. We're not going to be able to play anymore.
Yeah, there's very few times when the umpire is the reason that you lost.
Yes.
And I think what happens a lot is that there are a lot of people, and baseball's certainly not immune to it. There are a lot of people that are looking, not on purpose. They don't understand they're doing it, but they're looking for an excuse. And an umpire is a very easy one, to latch onto. And so, you get a bad pitch called on you. And for a lot of kids, the at-bat's over because they know if I strike out, it was the umpire's fault. Well, it's not. The umpire doesn't have a strikeout next to their name in the scorebook, right? He's not trying to get a hit and score run for their team. And so, umpires are I have a problem if they're not trying, if they don't care, but most of them do. And so when that's the case, now a bad call happens. How do you respond to it? How do you answer that? How do you overcome it, right? Because it is part of the game and you're going to get bad calls that go for you, right? Yeah. And so you have to be able to overcome something like that and not just let it take you completely out of what you're doing. And that's really a battleground for our guys and for any kid. If you're trying to play baseball at a high level and you don't have that ability, it's going to be a real short career.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. Okay. So we're going to have to start wrapping this up. So a couple of more things that I want to get to. And again, I'm going to go, well, with this one, I'm going to go back to, the youth and high school arena. What's one thing that every parent of a baseball player, high school, youth ball, what should every parent understand about college baseball?
What should they understand about college baseball?
Yeah, about getting to college baseball or, about college baseball.
You can't fake your way there. College coaches know what they're looking for. They know what they're doing. And, showing up at every single showcase, sending 1,000 emails isn't going to make you better. It's not going to make you a better player, right? If you're good enough, if you play the game the right way, you get in front of a couple of people, somebody's going to like you, but you can't talk your way into someone's program. You can't fake it. Nobody cares what you pulled down, right? That stuff doesn't matter. We care how you play, how you approach the game. We care what the kid is like, what they can do, what type of person they are. And so, there's no gaming the system onto a college roster. It's just not a thing. It's just not a thing. If we see you and independently like you, you're going to have a spot. You're going to get an opportunity. If we see you and we don't like you, and then we see you 5 more times, we probably still aren't going to like you. And it doesn't matter how many times you call us or email us, right? That can actually hurt.
Right.
So just, encouraging your kid to play hard and be themselves and play the game the right way is going to get them noticed. And if they're good enough, they'll get a chance.
Yeah. I love it because, but it kind of goes back to like what I was saying earlier, about, parents and players about what level and this and that. Be honest with yourself, right? Because like you said, if you're trying to force yourself down the throat of a coach that's coaching a team at a level that you can't get at, well, like you said, then, you're faking it. You got to be real, so.
Yeah. And listen, it's okay to aim high too. I think, there's risk is a part of life and understanding how to use it. The kid that wants to go to the big school, they have to understand what the risk is, right? If they get cut, their career's over. Like they're not playing baseball anymore. Do you accept that risk or don't you? And so, people have told other people what they can't do for a long time, and people prove them wrong all the time. And I think that's a great attitude. But you have to understand what happens if they were right and you were wrong, and what that means. And so, you can be honest with yourself. You can be honest with yourself what your dreams are and what you're capable of. You can listen to others. You can prove them right. You can prove them wrong. Just understand what each of those choices means.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think that, and I tell this to parents all the time, is one of the best things that a parent can do if they think their player is a high level player is get an honest evaluation of your player so you know where he stands. You know what schools you should be chasing. All right. Because I think a lot of times what happens, and I tell parents this all the time in my parent meetings, parents are the worst evaluators of baseball talent. They cannot have the same view of a player as you do or I do because we don't have emotions involved in it. We're just looking at the player from a raw talent perspective. So if they can find somebody to give them a true assessment, then it might make their life a little easier.
Well, for sure. And I think too, what's tricky is, for the same reason we don't take a lot of recommendations just sight unseen from people is, very, very few parents of kids or recruiting advisors or anything who have seen my team play, right? So when somebody says, I know somebody, they're perfect for you, or, oh no, they're too good for you, or they're not good enough for you, you have no idea. You don't know what we're looking for. I know what we're looking for. My assistants know what we're looking for. And so, getting your player in front of people and you can let the phone and the email be the evaluator, right? Like if you're in front of people and it's silent, you're either in front of the wrong people or you're not good enough, right? Or if you're in front of people and everybody's calling, okay, maybe I am good enough. Maybe these are the places. So, we don't miss, there's not too many guys that want to play college baseball that are playing somewhere and then just get missed.
Yeah.
That just nobody sees them. It's really pretty rare. There's crazy stories about how kids end up places for sure, but very few guys actually just get missed. It just doesn't really happen very often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last thing before I want you to give everybody your contact information so that they can reach you if they want to find you. All right, so if you had 5 minutes to speak to every youth baseball coach, parent in the country, and what would be the one message that you'd want them to hear if about them coming to Case Western?
About them coming here. So the message that we give to the guys that we're recruiting, we talk about really a couple of things. How great it is at Case Western Reserve University. I mean, it's really a great place. It's a cultural melting pot type of place where we have kids from all over the world, from all different backgrounds, from all different interests. I think whoever you are, you can be that best version of yourself here. We've had guys that were into the opera and played in the orchestra, and we're in Model United Nations and all that stuff, and they feel comfortable here. And so it's a great place. The other thing we try to tell them is how hard it's going to be. It's going to be a rewarding and incredibly difficult experience. Okay. And we want people that are interested in that want to see how good they can get at something because they worked exceptionally hard at baseball and at accounting or engineering or whatever it is. Because Cleveland, if it's going to do anything, it's going to prove to you that you get what you earn. And Case Western Reserve is no different from Cleveland. It belongs in Cleveland because you get what you earn when you're at this place, and you can earn quite a bit, but you got to work for it.
Yeah, that's great advice. I love it. So if people want to get in touch with you, how do they reach you?
Well, they can send me an email. I'm probably not going to respond to that email because I don't like it, and it's not my job, but they can send it to me. It's mde19@case.edu. Probably if you're trying to get recruited, send it also to my assistant coaches, to Steve Gruenberg, Matthew Johnson. Their stuff's on the website. That's the easiest way. My office phone doesn't ring. I give everybody my cell phone number. I'll do that here, but understand that it's going to ring at 3 a.m, so don't call me then because you're going to make my wife mad. So my number is 440-476-4452. Yeah, that's what I got.
That's great. Any social media, X accounts, Instagram, nothing like that?
Probably. I don't really know. I don't post a whole lot. I don't know. It's probably like at Matt Englander or something like that. I don't know. I'm not,
Yeah, but a lot of college coaches use X, as a vehicle, right?
I understand the value in it. I'm not like a opponent of social media. I think it's fine. But I don't know a lot of people that are going to send their kid across the country to play for somebody that they've got a great email relationship with, or who has a really cool X account. I'm trying to build relationships with people in the real world. And I personally don't know how to do that electronically, right? I know how to do it on the phone. I know how to do it in person. And so those are the mediums that I use.
That's fantastic. That's great advice. All right, Coach, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate this. And I really think it was a great conversation. I think you're going to leave people with a lot of stuff to think about.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Coach. A lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
All right. Thanks.
All righty. So there you have it. The main thing that stuck out to me during this episode was the fact that Coach Englander talked about playing hard, and he talked about it a lot. And I really don't think that that's a message that we should just overlook and just breeze past. When we're working with kids, that hustle part, that playing hard, is something that we really need, to hammer home, kind of just like the way Coach did it. On and off the field, you have to hustle. I mean, if you're looking for somebody to notice you, coaches are going to notice that you're hustling on the field, that you're hustling off the field, that, you hit a rollover ground ball and you're hustling down the baseline. Every play, every minute, every game, hustle, play hard. You've heard me talk about it all the time. You get a base hit to the outfield, you better be thinking, too, you're running hard until you have to stop and get back to the base. I mean, I always say this is, if you're not playing hard, you're not hustling, what are you doing there? It almost seems like that a player that doesn't hustle is kind of just going through the motions. There's a way to play the game. And if you're not playing it hard, then, I guess it's fine. You could play and not play hard, but you're not going to get noticed. And you're not going to keep moving up the ladder that way. People are going to say, well, he seems to be like a lazy player. So, I just felt that I needed to hammer that home a little bit more because he mentioned it several times. And I asked him what he was looking for. He said, play hard. If you come to our practices, what will you see? Players playing hard. Players hustling. Everywhere they go. Whether they're moving from station to station or, like I said, they're coming out of the dugout, whatever they're doing, all right? So, it's an important thing that I think everybody should understand. I think it was a great conversation. I hope everybody got a lot out of it like I did. And there's a reason why Coach Englander has been there for so long. I mean, starting out as a 25-year-old head coach and taking it to where he has now where, Case Western Reserve is a Division III program that competes year after year after year. There's just, again, a lot to be said for that. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I want to thank Coach Matt Englander for coming on and sharing with us. So, if you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Visit the website at thectbshow.net. Listen to your favorite episodes and please leave us a review. You can also reach out to the show on social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and get this, the old man has finally got us on TikTok. Keeps me young. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover, please drop us an email at clearingthebases@gmail.com. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content and reach more people in the baseball community just like you. And also, let me know if you'd like to be a guest. Until then, coaches and players, keep practicing, stay positive, and remember, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.